Joining me now is the founder and host of Snazzy Labs, that's amassed over 1 million subscribers on YouTube with nearly 250 million views. He's known for his hot takes on tech, his critical yet honest views on things like Apple and EVs, and for rocking a beard of biblical proportions. He's a very cool guy. I've had the privilege of meeting him once at LTX a few years back, and I'm excited to sit down and chat with him again today. I'm pleased to introduce Quinn Nelson of Snazzy Labs.
Yeah, there's just so many people, and
Yeah,
it's expensive, and
it is a lot.
I used to try to come down and cover the show,
Right.
which was nuts because there's just so many things
endless.
going on, and
Right.
you don't really know what's going to be cool until you get there. And
Exactly.
now there's kind of stuff where there's embargoes, and you can kind of get an idea of
Sure.
what'll be cool, but
Sure.
for a while, you just kind of had to go and guess.
Right. So what's your coverage been like lately, like for this year?
Not much. I came down to kind of see some friends after
Yeah.
a while, and then
Yeah.
we did some sponsored posts. But
Dude.
I extended my other day partially because I was like, it would be cool to do like at least a couple shorts or something
sure.
about like, hey, here's some cool stuff.
For
'Cause
sure.
there is cool stuff.
I
but-
feel like there should be like a trajectory for like, all right, a creator's first CES, like what kind of experience that is versus their 5th versus their 10th.
Trying to cover
It's
the
like,
show
the first
versus
one's
the not
yeah,
going.
running around from hotel to hotel, like with your chicken, like your head,
Yeah.
chicken with their head cut off, and then like the last one's like 10 years in, you're like, I took a few
I'll
photos.
come, yeah. And you'll be
I
like,
took a
I'll
few
come if you
photos.
give me some money.
I had like 3 dinners.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, dude, it's a wild experience, but it's fun. It's always a good time. It is exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like I'm always wiped out. It's like going to Disneyland 4 days in a row.
It really is because you don't think about like how much walking is involved.
Yeah.
And walking's not that hard. It's not that strenuous. But when you do so much of it, like
Yeah.
last night I was on my feet all day. I don't think I sat down the whole
Right.
day.
Plus whatever gear you're carrying the
Yeah.
whole time. Yeah.
I got back to my hotel and sat on the toilet and was like, I don't think I can ever leave this
Yeah,
place.
dude,
I'm
for
stuck
sure.
here.
And it's hard to be efficient when there's just so much chaos going on at all times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like you got meetings and appointments, and you're like, I got to get to the next guy at 11. It's like, I have an hour to shoot this, but then there's always something at any booth that you're at. It's like, oh, like the lighting sucks. It takes more time for that. Or it's like you run into so many people that you recognize and that you haven't seen in a
holds you
year.
up, yep.
And it's like you got to catch up. You don't want to be rude or push
Yeah.
them away, but it's like, I got to get going. It's just like, it stresses me out, dude. I get so much anxiety
No,
from
I'm the
it.
same. And that's why I kind of was like, I'm going to come down. We'll do my little sponsored bits and then I'm done. But even this,
Yeah.
like, I've got to be back at the North Hall
Yeah.
Convention Center at 1. So I probably need to leave like 45 minutes before I need to
For
get
sure.
there, which
Yeah,
is just
exactly.
because like, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
You walk or
And that is something
an
that you
Uber,
learn
and at that
after
point,
after
yeah.
enough CES.
Right.
You're like, oh, I got 10 minutes. I'll be fine.
yeah,
No, you're not.
yeah,
You're
for
done.
real.
You see that cab line out there? You're done. Oh man. Have you seen anything? Have you seen anything at CES this year that's like, I don't know, like fired you up at all?
Not yet, but part of it is honestly because I haven't been around that much. Like
Yeah.
I haven't even been to the convention center, and I've been
Right.
here for 3 days.
Yeah, for sure.
So I spent some time in the Venetian Expo.
Yeah.
And I always like that place because it's a little bit smaller in scale, so you
Right.
can kind of walk around. Like the Samsung booth,
Exactly.
and those are amazing, but they're like so enormous,
Exactly.
and most of it is kind of stuff that is already out. that
Right.
You're like, whatever.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
more of a show. It's more of a spectacle.
Yeah.
You know, like it's kind of gimmicky a little bit. But yeah, no, the Venetian stuff, the hotel suites, it's like, all right, I can just pop. You're much quicker to go to hop from one to another, and it's just a little bit less chaotic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, there's been some cool stuff. I'm drawing a blank. I remember some ridiculous stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
Did you see that Kohler toilet that has an e-ink display on it?
An e-ink?
Yeah, like it's like a Kindle.
What?
So it can,
Wait,
like,
where is it actually in the toilet? Like, is it embedded on
the whole thing, like the top, the side, like it's designed to be this like geodesic
What?
dimensional looking thing, and you can push the button and it'll refresh the display and draws like all of these like Archimedes patterns and all. It's,
So you could like read of Mice of Men on your toilet,
yeah,
if you wanted to.
I mean, that's what I was saying. I'm like, why are you only doing designs?
It is
You
literally
should put some words on
Yeah,
there.
it's a toilet reader for
Yep.
sure.
They have an RGB toilet too.
Okay, I'm down with
Of
that.
course.
I'm down
of
with
course. And it's very like modern and square.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bought one of those little RGB things that you put in your toilet.
Oh, the
So-
little ring lights.
little
huh?
ring lights. Yeah, I got one of those.
Yeah, there you go. Well, this is leveling it up. And now the outside can
Yeah.
be RGB too.
All right, I got to get on that. Yeah, dude, it's been a fun event. Like, I feel like I've been so kind of detached from it because I've just been in here. I did cover my sponsors. That was it. MSI and Thermaltake. I went to that. They were in the Venetian suites.
Oh yeah.
But outside of that, I've just been in here, kind of cooped up in my bat cave, and I love it, dude.
Sounds great.
I love it, dude.
Sounds relaxing.
It's like air conditioned in here.
Temperature's good.
Yeah, dude, we're like on comfy seats.
Uh-huh.
Like we're not getting interrupted every 5 seconds. So, dude, thank you for coming on and just
Of course.
talking for a bit.
Yeah, man.
What's your timeline like? Like how long do you have before you got to head out? I'm flexible.
Probably till like noon.
Okay, cool, perfect.
So you'll probably be sick of me before then.
Nah, for sure. Nah, I can't get sick of you, dude. Oh, all right. I have a question.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like with every CES or any like big trip, really, like I always forget something. Like it's without fail, I will forget something. I'll like write a checklist and I'll still forget to write something on the checklist. Did you forget anything this trip?
I honestly don't know that I did, but I will. Wow. So I'll leave something in the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Or,
you're the opposite.
you know,
Some people are the opposite, right? They always leave something at where they're staying.
Yeah, I'm usually
I'm pretty good
about it, but sometimes I like today, I was like, okay, I got to go meet Kyle, blah, blah, blah. I get all my stuff out because I checked out the whole thing.
Yeah.
And was like, oh, I didn't do a final walkthrough of the room. I should probably do that.
Yeah.
So I took my card out, did it, and then the housekeeping was like trying to get in. So I was like, all right, it's good.
Yeah,
but
right.
I don't know. There could be something in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Yeah.
Dude, one time I was in Greece with my girlfriend, and we left this Airbnb, checked out of an Airbnb. We'd only been like 5 minutes out. She's like, oh, I left my glasses at the Airbnb. And I was like, okay, we'll just turn around. She's like, no, it's fine. Just leave them there. I'm like, wait, what, like sunglasses? She's like, no, like my prescription.
Oh, no.
But I'm like, it's a 5 minute. I can walk there. Let me just jump out of the car. She didn't want to get it. She's like, no, just keep going.
At this point.
Yeah. Like, dude, are you made of money or something?
For real, dude. I'm the opposite.
I like that, bro.
Where we'll be like, you know, my wife will be like, oh, we forgot that thing. Not a big deal. And I'm like, dude, that was like $30.
Yeah, dude,
we should
sure.
go back and get that.
It's like, do you have a tree at home that grows glasses?
That's right. Yeah,
that's
for real.
insane. But cool, man. Hopefully you didn't forget anything back there.
Hope not.
All right. So
a hard time with this mic arm.
Oh, dude, yeah. Just it's a problem. That's the problem child of the set.
It's slowly
Is
lowering.
It slowly? Here, hold on. Let me
like,
get you.
I
got a better angle on it.
Strong.
I can angle it.
Oh yeah, I had another half turn in me. I just needed to readjust.
Don't mess up my
Hey,
videos,
there we
man.
go. Well, I hope this is the good height because
Like
you're never getting it back to normal.
Yeah, if that doesn't work, then we're screwed because that's as strong as I get.
Well, you're probably stronger than me, so
I'm turned out. Oh,
I'm tapped out.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But dude, I was wondering, like, okay, so when I think of your YouTube channel, I think of 4 things. I wrote this down.
Wow.
I think of Apple.
Okay.
I think
Fair.
of, all right, I would say Macs rather. Smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
EVs.
Mm-hmm.
And not just your channel, but you as your brand, just you.
My aura.
Yeah, your aura, Twitter, everything. Yeah, exactly. And then the last one, robot vacuums.
For good and bad, maybe.
Dude, okay, so because I've been doing this with all the interviewees where I just kind of go through their recent, content, look through their channel just to get a refresher, what they're up to. And I'm like, Quinn is like all about these robot vacuums.
Yeah, see,
like, what's up with the robot vacuum?
Here's the thing.
Right.
People think that I sell out to Big Robot. And do you know what?
Robot.
That's true. That's true. Almost every robot I show on the channel is sponsored.
Okay.
But that's not because I just want to check.
Right.
I love robot vacuums.
Okay, so this is just something that you're into.
Yeah, vacuums are awesome.
Yeah.
I've loved vacuuming since I was like a kid. Just like
as just even with a regular vacuum, you dig that.
yeah, I mean, and your audience is a lot of PC guys. They know what's up.
Yeah.
Like correctly managing airflow and making sure that you've got
Damn.
enough static pressure to push through your rad. Same stuff. That's what vacuums are.
When you put it that way, it does sound like something a nerd could get into.
For sure, because like Dyson's, not bad vacuums.
Yeah.
But they're super heavy on suction.
Right.
And so when you put them on high pile carpet, you have no airflow, doesn't move, doesn't pick stuff up that well.
Right.
They're just like PCs. So
Yeah, for sure.
So,
don't put it on the floor. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that one's not the best on the floor.
yeah.
You know?
And then, add robots to it. And
Yeah.
it's going to be way sick.
Nice.
And just the evolution of them over time is amazing.
Dude, it is. They're like Pokemon. Like every year they evolve,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that looks way different than they did last year.
Like 5 years
Final
ago, we were
form,
getting
dude.
the first ones with like the little LiDAR modules on top.
Yeah.
And now they have like fully 3D mapped homes.
That's
and
crazy.
they can clean their own mop pads when they're done with a task. There's
cool.
one that was I don't remember who announced it, but I saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
And part of the problem with like the mop pads is they can drag on the carpet. So most of the robots try to raise them up, but they can only do it like 20 millimeters. It's not very far.
Right.
So if you have like high pile carpet, it still drags these wet pads all over your floor.
Damn.
So everyone has kind of like different ideas on how to do that. But
Sure.
there's one company that everyone was like, oh, that was a really good idea. Why didn't we think of it?
Yeah.
And it just goes, if it detects that the carpet height is too high, it just goes back to its docking station, drops the pads, and is like, I'll come back for these later.
Damn.
Yeah.
They're getting really smart.
They're getting pretty advanced.
They're eventually just going to become battle bots.
Right.
Like
exactly.
that's the trajectory that we're seeing. Like it's going to be insane. They're going to start fighting each other.
So is every robot vacuum video on my channel an ad? Yes. But is it because I just want the money? No, I actually think they're pretty awesome.
That is pretty cool. I've got one, but I don't really use it too much. It's a
RoboRock?
No, not RoboRock. It's the what's the OG one?
Oh, Roomba.
Roomba. It's a Roomba.
Yeah.
But it's like the one that like will like eject all of the crap that it sucked up into like its
into
own
the base
bin.
station.
So so you could just like dump that.
It's probably the J7. Not that I know robot
I wouldn't be
vacuums.
surprised. I would trust you at this point. But I got to fire that guy up again. You know, he's just chilling there. If you had to recommend one, let's say people were going to spend their own money. They could not get a sponsor.
Yeah, okay.
Which one would you recommend?
So my unsponsored thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted.
Okay.
So RoboRock's like top of the line models, the S8 Max V is the new one. I actually think they call it the S8 Max V Ultra. Terrible naming. The top of the line RoboRock vacuums I think are probably the best all round.
Okay.
They don't do as good at mopping. That's part of the problem. Because if you want like a good vacuum and a good mop, they don't really exist yet.
I see.
Eureka announced one that looks like it might be kind of good at mopping because it has like this infinite pad that consistently rotates, and it uses clean water on top, and then it scrapes the dirty crap off the bottom and puts it in a store tank. So anyway, I think if you were going to go like best of the best, RoboRock stuff is really good just because their app is so much better than everyone else's.
Okay, cool.
Like I like the EcoVac stuff from a hardware standpoint.
Yeah.
But their app sucks. And like you don't want to have to get in and be like, why isn't this working? It's stuck somewhere.
Yeah, dude.
And the RoboRock isn't the best performer at, everything.
Right.
But it's the one that you can, like, I can recommend and be like, my grandma could own this and she could figure it out.
Nice. I definitely think like software is half of the product.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean? It's like you could like those RGB fans look so good, but God, the software, I never want to touch that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Load up IQ,
So do you have like do you have like a regular vacuum robot and a mopping?
I do.
You got one of each?
Yeah, right now.
Nice.
So, yeah,
They're
my
probably
regular
just
vacuum.
taking over your place right now.
I know. That's part of the problem, too, is they're both huge. They've got these enormous docks. The docks, as they get more capable, keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So my vacuum that I have at home is a couple years old just because the dock is smaller and I can put it underneath a bench in like our mudroom where you can't see it.
Yeah.
So I've got one of those, and then I've got a Narwhal, which is my mop.
Okay.
And they it's a vacuum, too, but it's the worst vacuum on the planet.
Okay.
It's basically not.
But a killer mop.
So I actually use, this is where we're getting really nerdy, I will use Home Assistant to automate.
That's awesome.
So that, when the robot vacuum is done and it reports that it's completed back to the home, then it'll send the mop out on its own task.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
All right, dude. You're getting me excited, man. I'm going to look into this for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, I bet your robot vacuums are having a party at your place right now.
Probably.
Like Toy Story.
They do every day. Yeah.
All right. What's the first video you ever made? Tech video. How about that?
Tech video.
First tech
video.
video.
I think my first video was a tech video, honestly.
Okay.
And I think it was on my channel I have now.
Really?
Yeah. So my first video that's still on the channel was a Bose.
Okay.
I think they called it the...
Fancy.
I think it was before the noise canceling stuff was called Quiet Comfort. I don't know. It was like an inline pair of headphones. They had like little silicone tips.
Okay.
And it was just a pair of wired headphones. They were like $100 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they had one of these little, I think you put like a AAA or a quadruple A battery in there.
Oh, what?
And there was active noise canceling in them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
wild, back from 2008. So I'm sure they were horrible.
That sounds terrible.
But that was my first video. Like my mom had gotten them for their birthday or for her birthday. And I was like, oh, can I borrow these? And
what compelled you? Like, what compelled you to be like, I'm going to record this? For the first time ever, to be like, I want to make a video on this and just like post it to the internet.
Well, long story short, I had bought an iPhone. I was working as like a janitor after school for a couple hours. I was in 9th grade, so junior high.
You were a janitor in 9th grade?
Yeah, 14 years old.
Damn, dude.
the youngest age you can work as an
9-year-old
employee in the state of Utah.
With back problems, just like, oh, man, my Lunchables is coming in.
Yeah, so they called me a sweeper. I'd go in for 3 hours after school and after the elementary got out, and I would vacuum all the classrooms, and I would sweep the hallways.
No wonder you love vacuums. It's all making sense.
You're right. Yeah. This is a part of my youth.
You are a robot vacuum, dude.
Yeah. And I had bought an iPhone. That was like my first big purchase with money. I made $5.15 an hour, so it took a while to get up to there. But I was like, this is my first big purchase. And my parents helped me with like the data plan. But I bought the phone.
Nice. And
it was an iPhone, first-gen iPhone. And then I ended up getting an iPhone 3G. Long story, it broke. And I was able to trade it in at the Apple store for the new model.
Right.
But I had that iPhone 3G for like 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
And there were just cracks all up and down the plastic on the phone. They scratched so easy. And everyone that has an iPhone, you go look at it from that era and they're all beat up.
Right.
But I was like, I should probably get a case.
Yeah.
And so I just Googled iPhone 3G case. And I saw this guy on, this was right when YouTube was starting to appear in search recommendations on Google.
Yeah.
And I had not really used YouTube. Like I had seen cat videos and stuff, but never really been on there.
Sorry, what year was this, roughly?
2008.
Oh, so YouTube was still very young.
Yeah, there were no like
3 years
YouTubers
old.
And this is, so to put things into perspective, how long I've been doing this crap, I was already making videos when Fred was the first channel to pass 1 million subscribers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, that is nuts. I haven't heard that name in so long.
I know. And he was the first one where people were like, oh, maybe you could make money doing this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I saw this guy that all he did, his name is Carlos Aquino, and he just made videos about iPhone cases. And at first I was like,
wow,
who would watch these?
Yeah.
Because they're like 15 minutes long. And he's like, oh, yeah, this is made out of TPU. The construction is really nice. The packaging is excellent. Let's put this on. Oh, yeah, let's polish the phone out. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Like, this guy sucks.
And then like,
but also, 4
I need
days
this later,
video.
Yeah, and then 4 days later, I had seen like 80 of his videos, and I'm like, all right,
yeah, right.
The Spec Candy Show is the best case. Right. And I ended up buying a case and started a YouTube channel because I saw that he was getting a bunch of free stuff, and I was like, well, I could do that.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, yeah, that's dude, that's such a cool origin story.
Oh, thanks.
I feel like I love asking that question to people to creators because we all have a completely different path on how we started it. Sure. Because there's no like standardization. It's like you don't get a degree in like YouTubing. You know, it's like we were all kind of down a different path. Like, what do you think you'd be doing right now if YouTube wasn't a thing?
I honestly don't know. Because I seriously, I started this when I was 15. So in a couple months, I'm 30. So in a couple months, I'll have been doing YouTube for more of my life than I haven't been doing YouTube.
Damn.
And so it was just like, it was with me through junior high and high school. When I went to college, I just kept doing YouTube stuff on the side, and it was a great little way to make some money to help pay for school and stuff. Yeah. And then I decided to go full time when I graduated, which was 2018, so 6 years ago.
Right.
And there are times where I don't want to complain, but being a YouTuber is a hard gig.
For sure. It comes with its fair share of very unique challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we lucky? I think so.
100%.
Yeah. But there's been times where I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
And I've thought about like, I could probably go get a cushy job somewhere. What would I do? Right. And I'm seriously like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
The same way, dude.
I don't know who would hire me.
Right.
Because I have no real work experience.
Yeah.
I've only ever worked on YouTube.
Yeah,
you know?
Right,
I've got a degree, but I haven't used it.
I mean, I feel like if you just quit doing YouTube one day after doing it for a long time, then it's almost kind of like you're a housewife that's getting divorced, and like you haven't been in the career game for years.
Yeah,
it's
like who's starting from ground zero.
I got zero resume skill, you know?
I could probably go get like a job at an influencer marketing agency, but I wouldn't want to do that.
Exactly right.
That's the worst job of all of them.
For sure, yeah, dude. No, that's like I'll just be homeless for a while. I'll figure it out.
Talking to YouTubers and brands, no thanks.
So are you still of that mentality? Are you still kind of thinking like, all right, how could I pivot here? Do you still sort of want to keep a door open to other things, or?
I don't know. I'm young enough that I don't have any illusion that this is going to be my job forever.
Sure.
Right. But I also didn't think it was going to be my job until 2023.
Right.
4. And here we are, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down. So that's kind of one of those struggles, is the more and more time you do this, like YouTube is just so different than what it used to be.
Right.
That you kind of have to keep up and play the game and do the videos the way you're supposed to do them. And it's still fun, but there's been times where I've been like, do I still like this?
Right.
And there's times where I haven't.
Yeah.
And so it's always kind of in the back of my mind, like, maybe we do something else.
Right.
And there's a bunch of creators that are smarter than I am that have like branched out and done a bunch of cool stuff. So like Michael Fisher, I don't know if you saw it. He's Mr. Mobile on YouTube, big YouTube channel, very successful.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm going to go out and co-found a company that makes iPhone cases with keyboards on them, which is just like such a wild idea, but like pretty cool. And the product is awesome. And he's been at CES. He'll have like his Mr. Mobile hat on at night, and during the day he's like, I'm a professional businessman doing things. And I'm like, how did he even how did he get the money, and how did he come up with the idea?
That's just like such an entrepreneurial
how do you even
brain,
go about that?
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's been 8 days since I've uploaded. I should probably figure something out.
Should probably get out of bed. It's 5 p.m.
Right.
Damn. Hey, big shout out to Thermaltake for hooking it up at CES 2024. So they dropped some seriously cool cases at their booth. And guess what? They teamed up with Asus to birth the Series 330, a mid-tower beauty that's all about those cable-free vibes with Asus's BTF motherboards that put all the connectors and headers on the backside. Clean look? Check. It supports up to 7 120mm fans and a 360 radiator at the front. Oh, and the case on display, you ask? Rocking that awesome hydrangea blue to celebrate Thermaltake's 25th birthday bash. Black and snow white versions are hitting shelves on January 10th for $109.99 USD. And the hydrangea blue option drops on January 4th, same price. Now let's talk about the CTE E600MX, a real head-turner. Dual-chamber mid-tower with edge-to-edge glass panels for the ultimate build peep show. You can even swap the front panel with an included mesh panel for more airflow. How cool is that? Plus the whole 90-degree rotated motherboard and a floating like a boss vertical GPU thanks to a handy mounting bracket and PCIe 4.0 cable, which are both included. Launching on January 20th in black, snow white, and hydrangea blue for $179.99. Not bad at all for all the cool stuff it brings to the table. But wait, there's more. The Tower 300, a micro ATX marvel with an octagonal shape. It's like Loot Crate, spaceship, endless nerdy possibilities with tons of modding potential. And it's not just for show. Removable toolless glass panels and a hinged fan bracket make access to components and cables a breeze. And if that's not rad already, you've got the option to set it up on an angled stand for a one-of-a-kind perspective on your build. Plus, there's a ventilated panel cleverly concealing all the I/O ports, giving it that ultra-clean aesthetic. Available for $149.99 in custom colors. Black and snow white are out now. Turquoise and blue on the 14th, and green and yellow dropping on February 4th. Major props to Thermaltake for making these CES 2024 chats happen. Check out their latest gear with the link in the description. Huge shout out to MSI for hooking it up at CES 2024 and making these interviews possible. Now brace yourselves for the tech magic. MSI just unveiled their MEG 321 URX QD OLED display, a 32-inch OLED 4K monitor that's got a wild 240Hz refresh rate and a crazy fast 0.03 millisecond response time. And get this, it's not just any monitor, it's powered by AI. Right now, the AI is all about giving League of Legends players an edge, but more games are in the pipeline. Check this out. There's a slick LED bar on the bottom that syncs with the character's health bar, keeping crucial info in your peripheral vision while you crush it in battle. Then there's AI SkySight, predicting where off-screen enemies might pop up and slapping a red skull icon on screen to show you where they're coming from. It's like tactical ESP. And the best part? No bans here, because all the AI magic happens on the monitor, not your PC. So go ahead, enjoy that sweet victory, you cheating son of a What's really neat is MSI is exploring ways to leverage AI in other games so users can teach their monitors to elevate their gameplay even further. But wait, there's more. MSI dropped a 49-inch QD OLED 2K display with a mind-blowing 5120 by 1440 resolution. hits up to 144 Hz, and yep, it's packing the same AI superpowers as the other monitor. Both of them are also rocking OLED Care 2.0 for burn-in prevention, dimming desktop icons and other static stuff on your screen. Hear that noise? No, you don't, because this monitor is silent. This baby is fanless, using a graphene film to conduct heat like a champ before exhausting it passively out of its ventilated back panel. Want to dive deeper into all the MSI awesomeness? Hit up the link in the video description.
So, I don't know. I think that, I still ultimately love this. Yeah. And so that's why I think I keep doing it. And I'm passionate about making videos and communicating with my audience.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a little bit of, I don't want to say arrogance, but confidence in the stuff that you're making is good. Because if you don't, then it's not worth it.
Exactly.
And it's way easier to like sell out and do all the ads and cash out and be done in 5 years and then just say, yeah, I don't care about this. But I do. And I know you do. And
100%.
But as you've seen, trying to kind of reinvent your content and your channel and your identity online is really hard.
It is.
And I haven't done, I've had some sort of decision paralysis, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I've had enough stuff going on in life.
Right.
I've got a mortgage and, my wife works, but we're going to have a family eventually. And I'm like, I can't, have a bunch of instability of like, let's try something new.
Exactly.
So I kind of keep doing what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And I like it and it's good. And I think, I look at my stuff 2 years ago and it's way worse than what I'm making today.
Yeah.
Which I'm proud of. And I'm sure I'll think in 2 years, the same of what I'm making today. But you always kind of have the question in the back of your head of like, should I do something else too?
Yeah.
Not instead of this, but in addition to it.
Damn, dude. I feel that a lot.
Yeah.
I do feel that a lot. I'm definitely the type of person that needs to do a million different types of things. Uh-huh. Otherwise, it gets stale for me really quick.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's anything that you could change about the YouTube career that would make you want to do it? Like, would make you even more comfortable with just doing it all the time, that being the only thing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think that as a content creator, you're always trying to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And so there's never this kind of perception of, oh, I can kind of loosen up a little bit and I'm not talking like, oh, I'm going to sleep till noon and not go into the office. I'm just talking about like to put stuff into autopilot where you can, I have one employee. Mm-hmm. And he's amazing. He's my cinematographer and shoots all of the video and does all the B-roll and edits the video together. And he does a better job than I ever could, right?
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to, for years, hire a writer. But I can't. Because that's the part that is me. That's the value out of my channel.
For sure. Yeah.
I've never been Marquez. I don't think that my video production, even though Benjamin is great, Benjamin, you do a good job. It's not the most like insane... and part of the reason is we don't have the right gear and the right studio, and I'm not willing to sit around and be like, yeah, let's shoot B-roll for 6 days to get this right. I'm like, we need to get stuff out.
Yeah.
So my value proposition on my channel has always been, I think, my opinion and my writing style, and that's impossible to farm out to someone.
Yeah, definitely.
And other YouTubers have tried where they go, okay, well, maybe I don't need a writer, but maybe a researcher or someone that can help me, I can bounce ideas off of and all that stuff. And that's good and well, and, all's fine there.
Right.
But then you need to, in your mind, go, okay, can I budget another, 6 figures for an employee that can do that?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
and then, to pay for them and do we need to up the quantity? And then am I still the bottleneck? And that's kind of what I've discovered is no matter how hard you try to not make yourself the bottleneck, you still are.
Yeah.
And I think even big channels like, I'll use Linus as an example. Mm-hmm. Anybody who knows Linus in real life, he is
an asshole.
No.
I love Linus.
He's
nuts.
The best. Like Linus on video is Linus in real life.
Yeah.
Like the dude never stops working.
Right.
He's doing stuff all the time.
For sure.
And he has the bandwidth and the skill set to be able to do that. I don't.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to.
Yeah, dude.
And so, I'll see that and be like, Linus has got this company of, 100 employees now almost.
Right.
And he's still the one that's kind of like, I think, and maybe with the CEO stuff has changed, but I like knowing what I know about the industry and about Linus is he was still kind of the top guy.
Yeah.
He couldn't go on vacation for a month and just be like, see you later.
Yeah.
And that's exhausting.
It is insane to see someone, because like his work ethic is incredible. It's insane. I don't know how he does it, but
it's
to
almost
be like
inhuman.
Yeah, right. To be like, when he was CEO, like at the top, at the helm of it all, I'm sure he would be like the last one working.
Oh, yeah.
Like the first
Every
one
single,
up.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
totally.
like he was the hardest worker or whatever. It's like, what's your take on that? Like, because I remember, not to bring it up, I'm not gonna get into it, but the whole like LTT was in some hot water last year, and I remember you making a tweet. You actually were tweeting about it a little bit.
Yeah,
I caught some of it on Reddit too. I actually wrote it down. Because I liked it.
Boy.
It was good. It was nothing.
What a natural transition.
Yeah, I know, right?
I brought Linus up.
I am a genius, though.
You really are.
No, you said this. You said, I despise the grind mindset. It's not allowed at Snazzy Labs. It's cancerous. It stresses out all workers, lessens product quality, and creates culture operational problems without the time to address them. I'll never be super rich, but I'm happy. And I hope my team is too. Work isn't life. It's a good quote.
Yeah,
it's very quotable.
Well, and yeah, I said what I said. I'm really focused on what can you do in life to be happy, and for a lot of people, that is making videos. I discovered for me that it wasn't. It's not that I don't enjoy my job. It's not that I'm not grateful for my audience. I absolutely am. It's not that I'd have a better time doing any other job. I don't think I would. But it's a job that I love, but it's not everything to me.
Yeah.
I am concerned about what people perceive of me and my like legacy and my reputation online. I don't want to be thought of as a sellout. I care. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter to me when compared to family and friends and exploring the world and just living life, because we're only here one time. And so to kind of bog yourself down to the point where this is all you can do and think about, and you eat, drink, and live work, that sucks.
Yeah. Dude, I know it sounds horrible to me. And I guess it's like for something like Linus we were talking about, like he's just wired that way. Like that is what
people are that way.
That is what makes him happy.
Right.
And it's like, if I was wired that way, I'd probably be exactly the same way.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you got to do what works for you. And I think the grind culture is to say that this is more important than your friends, your family, quality time, whatever. It's like it's the most in your face way of how we measure success or like a happy life. You know what I mean? It's like, how many numbers did you get today or whatever? How many subs? I remember like when I hit my first million, it was like a bittersweet feeling, because I was like going through some weird stuff with my ex at the time. And it was like supposed to be this momentous, happy occasion. Like I've been waiting my whole freaking life for this moment. And like, but my social life was like off, and my personal life was off. And I was just like, okay, maybe this isn't everything. Like this doesn't make me happy. And then I hit the 2 million, and then that felt even less, even more underwhelming. And I was just like, is this all it is? Because like once I finally achieved my goals, or my dreams, really, I was like, what's 3 million? What does it all mean? Like, why do I keep going?
Yeah.
And I think what I realized is like, there's almost two sides of me that will never change. There's a side of me that I was just born this way. It's a human thing. Like, I will never have enough. You'll never be filled. And then there's the other half of me that's like, no, this is enough. I can cap it. I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's that where those two versions of yourself meet in the middle is different for everyone. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I remember talking to a creator. I won't name them. I don't want to throw them under the bus. But creators talk,
Yeah.
We talk about,
I
got this integration. Oh, yeah, definitely on others. But, we got this integration for this much, or, whatever. And I'd had a really, really, really good year in 2020. And I was like, I'm so happy about this. This is an awesome year, and I might have even put on Twitter, I'm like, we had a 40% year over year growth revenue-wise.
2020 was the best year in the country.
Yeah, not for anyone else, but for me, it was a good year.
Suck it, losers.
Everyone was stuck at home. You had no other option. I'm your only outlet of entertainment. One of my buddies messaged me and was like, how much did you make? And I was like, X, and they were like, oh, well, I mean, that's not bad, but you can be making so much more than that. And I was like, but I'm happy. Like, this is good.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need more. And he was like, oh, yeah, you got to just reframe stuff so that you're doing this instead of that. And, like, you'll have to put more focus on this. And I'm like, don't mess with my thing. Like, this is good. Right. I'm happy. I'm enjoying it. And, I had kind of, and that's the problem with money, right, is money doesn't make you happy, but it does a little bit.
For sure.
You need enough to be able to have stability and kind of comfort in your life and whatever.
Yeah.
But once you hit a baseline, and it depends on the person. There are a lot of people that are super growth driven where owning a Ferrari makes them feel happy.
Sure.
I don't really think I would feel that different.
Right.
I've got what I need and it works well.
Right.
And working 30 more hours a week to be able to live in a $5 million home is not worth it to me.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's I feel exactly the same way. It's like I have a nice car. It's not like a supercar or anything, but it's like a nice, speedy little car. And like it doesn't make, I wouldn't say it makes me truly happy, but it's fun. It brings me some joy.
Makes you smile.
It makes you smile. Dude, smiles per mile, bro.
That's right.
It's and I'm cool with it. Like I think just knowing where your priorities are. I think as we get older, your priorities change. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a reason why you hustle and you grind so much when you're young.
Yeah.
Because you don't have like your own family. You haven't started developing. You don't have like a serious relationship or kids. And then at some point, like any other creator that I've talked to that's just had kids, a lot of them recently, they're just like, dude, I don't even care anymore. Like I don't even care. Like
nothing else matters.
That's the fact, dude. I would just rather spend time with my kid.
Yeah.
And it's like it really just kind of changes your perception of things. I think in a nice kind of beautiful way.
Yeah.
What else, dude? Oh, I kind of wanted to mention this just because I feel like for those who may not be super familiar with you or your content, they might at first glance think like, oh, this is like an Apple fanboy or something.
Yeah.
But I've personally never heard anyone talk more trash on Apple than you. It's like you're like crack for Mac haters, Apple haters.
Probably.
So how do you excuse me? How do you like explain or describe that seemingly love-hate relationship that you have with Apple?
Well, I've been an Apple user my whole life. So my dad was a Mac user from like the mid 80s. And so I grew up in a home. We were a learned home of Mac users. Okay. There were no PCs inside. Yeah. No. So I didn't grow up playing PC games. Really. I played like some like jumpstart games on the Mac. Like I played Backyard Baseball and Spy Fox and
nice.
Freddy Fish, the classics. But I had always just grown up using a Mac, and so it was a natural extension for me to talk about it because that's my exposure to computers. I even remember, this sounds so weird, but it really was true. When I started using PCs in like late elementary, junior high school, I seriously didn't. I was like, I don't know how to do this. And I was frustrated because all my friends were like, oh yeah, you open a Windows Explorer, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah,
like that doesn't make sense.
Sure.
And so, my perception of like how things worked was just different because of that.
Of course.
But I think that's kind of evolved into my continued usage of Apple stuff. And I like to think that over time I've become sophisticated enough that I do know other operating systems. I have one computer in my house that's a desktop, and it's running Windows 11.
Okay.
Not Mac OS.
Yeah.
I have a Linux laptop that I use fairly frequently. And so I try to do all the things, but I still ultimately am a Mac user and an Apple guy at heart. I reviewed Android phones on YouTube from like 2014 to 2016.
Right.
I haven't used anything other than iPhone like the last 3-4 years. So I've kind of just like, I have the things that work and I like them and I'm comfortable with them. But because I am in the Apple ecosystem, I'm aware that it's not perfect, and Apple users that try to pretend that it is are just as delusional as anyone else. There's problems. There's things that don't make sense. There's poor design. There's bugs. It's, it's just an operating system.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that has kind of been to my benefit, I guess, on YouTube, because the stereotype that Apple users aren't smart or pro users. I'm not going to say it's all the way true, but it's a little bit true. And the whole shtick of like, well, it just works. it does kind of hold water for a lot of people that buy a Mac and buy an iPhone, and they don't know. It's just like it's logged into iCloud and they pay $5 a month for storage, and it's just, it works. So I don't have to
set it and
worry
forget
about
it.
Yeah, exactly. But because I'm interested in technology and how things work and taking stuff apart and learning about, what does what, and obviously that's extended into the PC world. I think that I had the opportunity to, from a prosumer standpoint, I'd be like, okay, let's actually break down the hardware and talk about what's good and bad.
Yeah.
I was one of the few on YouTube that was a Mac user that was a real power user.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that created opportunity. But by consequence, I've been critical about a lot of stuff that Apple does. Now, do I think they do a bad job? No, I continue to buy all their stuff. And, but there is this perception that I'm an Apple hater, in part because I have been critical of them in the past. I don't get invited to events. And so that's kind of a thing where people go, oh, he's on the naughty list. He must be a hater. Because Apple invites all the YouTubers, but I've never been. I've never even talked to Apple.
Wow, really? Because I feel like, excuse me, I feel like it's the opposite. Like when someone's really critical about something, oftentimes it just means that they care. Yeah. Like it's because it's because you want them to get better, and just blowing smoke up their ass over things that, over their shortcomings, is not going to get them there.
And I've been criticized of that in the past from other Apple YouTubers, where they're like, why are you talking about that? That doesn't really matter. You just, make something, put something in Final Cut, and then make a beautiful video, and you realize that none of the stuff you're talking about actually matters. And I'm like, but it does, though. Yeah. Because if you're focused on value proposition and what makes the best experience, you do have to talk about the stuff that isn't good enough. Because how else does anything improve?
So those people that you're talking about, those are like the stereotypical Apple sheep that we'll put our head down and just ignore all that.
Why are you talking about stuff critically? You don't make anything. I'm a musician and I make songs, and there's no better platform for that than the Mac, and you wouldn't know that. I'm like, well,
then let me get another 5 followers on SoundCloud like you have.
Right. You'll be like, well, I kind of do. And I kind of have talked to musicians and know that a lot of them are frustrated by the fact that Thunderbolt kind of became a thing and there was no PCIe expansion in Macs for years. And so sound cards and, all the stuff didn't work. And then everything, it's just like, yeah. So does it matter for most people? No.
Right.
But does it matter for some? Yeah, sure. And even if it doesn't matter to people, they benefit the reward from improvement.
Exactly.
So even if you don't care, it's going to make your life better, but someone has to talk about that.
For sure.
And so I've tried to do that, and I think I do an okay job. But yeah, I'm a fanboy to everybody who's not an Apple user, and to everyone who's an Apple user, I'm overcritical.
Okay. So. That's fair. I like that.
Yep.
You said you had is your Windows 11 PC, or it's a computer? Is it a Hackintosh or is it a PC?
It's a bona fide PC.
Okay.
No Mac OS. I did Hackintosh stuff for a while.
Yeah.
And got really into PC building just because I love hardware. So it was fun. I mean, the first build I did that was like a real build was a 7th gen Intel i7 and a GTX 1080.
Nice.
It was from EVGA. I didn't really know anything at the time about, cooling and airflow, and so I forget the name of it, but they had no, it wasn't a 1080. It was a 980 Ti.
Oh, okay.
So they had the card, and then they had an AIO that was part of, it was inside the shroud for the GPU, and then they just had a Rad that was like 120 mil you'd mount on the side and whatever.
Nice. That's a fancy card.
Oh, it was very fancy. So yeah, that was my
EVGA,
first.
That thing's a relic now.
I know. I sold it, which I'm so sad about because so that was my first kind of PC, and then with Hackintosh stuff and just enjoying PCs in general, I built stuff like crazy. Almost every year I'd upgrade my own hardware just out of my own pocket because I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I got something that was good enough, and I haven't really done anything in a while.
Out of curiosity, because I'm going to ask you like some noob questions about Hackintoshes. Like, is the gaming experience on a Hackintosh, is it exactly 1-to-1 with a PC? Or are there any kind of drawbacks from it having, being on a Mac?
Oh, yeah. Like when you're in Mac OS or when you're just playing in Windows?
If you're just playing in Windows.
Yeah. No, you either partition the driver. I usually just... dual boot. You just have one SSD for Windows and one SSD for macOS.
Yeah.
There is some weird stuff sometimes that you have to turn off that there are a lot of people that will have like two BIOS saves so they can flash between one and the other, because like you have to turn off like trusted computing and you know, some of the weird stuff like secure boot you have to turn off usually, because you know,
exactly,
faking some OS into thinking that you're you know, the kernel's running on a Mac. But yeah, no, generally you know, it's pretty much the same.
I remember back in the day, like years ago, when I was like doing some research into Hackintoshes, that it like there were certain brands or manufacturers of hardware that were more recommended or more compatible than others. Is that still the case, or is
the community's kind of come a long way in good and bad ways?
Okay.
So back when I was mostly doing videos on it, there was this website called Tony Mac that was like a big Hackintosh repo.
Okay.
And they made stuff all pretty easy for people to make a Hackintosh, because they had step-by-step installers.
Oh, wow.
So you go through and you'd be like, I have this hardware. You can check the boxes where you go, I've got this, you know, I've got integrated graphics on an Intel card or on an Intel CPU that I intend to use instead of a GPU, and or disable the iGPU. I want to use discrete graphics or whatever.
Right.
And you'd go through and kind of click all the stuff, and it would compile the stuff that you needed to make your own plist file. That was kind of your main master for the kernel to tell it what hardware you have and inject a serial number and, you know, the hardware UUID and all that stuff. And so at the time, there were huge compatibility issues. Like ASRock boards were by far the most compatible, and Gigabyte.
Wow.
And so I still, to this day, am probably the only fan of ASRock. Also because they just do the weirdest stuff. I love ASRock.
Yeah, dude. I love like naming your board Tai Chi.
Oh yeah, and
that's
like,
awesome.
Like I bought, I had a 5820K, so X99 platform, and I bought a mini ITX board that was X99. And you look at the socket, and it's like the size of the whole board. It's insane. Like they just do the crazy, and they still do crazy stuff.
I remember that board, dude. I was like, you guys are wilding out.
Yeah, they have an Intel board right now that I forget what it's called, but it's got like 40 gig LAN on it. They just do the weirdest stuff where it's like, who is this for?
They're like the middle child of the motherboard makers.
Yeah, they're like, let's just throw stuff on here. So I love ASRock. But awesome. ASRock and Gigabyte boards for a long time were the most compatible. Now,
is there a reason why? Is there like, does anyone know why?
Yeah, probably. I don't know why, but like Asus boards were by far like the hardest to get working.
Yeah.
And so most people didn't use those. But as times have changed, it's to the point now where stuff has gotten really weird. Yeah. Because, for example, you can run a Hackintosh quite dependably using an AMD CPU, but Apple's never put an AMD CPU in a modern, Mac. Right. So you can emulate being on an Intel x86 chip using a Ryzen chip.
Whoa.
And it's where things have changed is those little click-through tools, they're gone now, because they never were really very good. One of the reasons why all this compatibility stuff existed was because there were only a few files that everyone was trying to use, and nobody was really learning how to use a Hackintosh. They were just trying to make a thing. And so updates would break it, and you'd have instability. You'd open up Creative Cloud, and it would crash. Yeah. You had no ability to use iMessage or AirDrop or some of the stuff that makes a Mac compelling.
Right.
And so the community's kind of shifted, and part of it was because they changed the EFI from or the bootloader from open what was the old one called, Clover, to now what's called OpenCore. And OpenCore is like a big open source project that even works for Linux, and like it's not even just focused on Mac OS. But now there's guides. It's kind of hard to make a Hackintosh now because they don't say, hey, here's a tool, we'll generate something for you. You've got to go through and step-by-step build your own configuration files. But the idea behind it is if you know how the computer works, you'll understand, A, how to fix it if something happens, but B, you probably won't have something happen because you're building bespoke files for your particular set of hardware.
I see.
Which was never really the case. And so, you can run all sorts of stuff now, but the community's kind of on life support.
Yeah, right.
Because Apple's moved to Apple Silicon.
Okay, yeah.
And so x86 support is still supported in macOS. The latest version of macOS supports Intel, but I would suspect within the next year or two that will probably not be the case any longer.
Okay.
And they'll just say all Intel machines are legacy.
Yeah.
The other problem with kind of that transition is that when Apple stopped putting hardware in their machines, it was a lot harder for new hardware to get kind of inserted.
Right.
So CPUs are still pretty easy. You can use like 13th gen Intel stuff pretty okay. Right. But the last graphics stuff that's been supported is would be like the AMD 50. I think the highest end card was the 5700 XT.
Oh wow.
Maybe even older.
Okay.
So you're stuck with like old like most
last
people
gen.
that are running Macs are buying like Vega cards and
Right.
like what was the RX 480s? Like people are still running those because
Wow.
like those are supported and they're stable.
Yeah.
But like all new stuff, it doesn't really work. And then
Damn.
Apple dropped NVIDIA in macOS 10.10, which was like almost a decade ago.
Right.
So like that OS has support for 10th gen 10 series NVIDIA cards, but nothing after that.
Wow. I didn't realize Hackintoshes had just kind of gone down by
so
the
they're
wayside.
kind of withering away.
Yeah.
And so what a lot of people will do, and it works, is if you're not doing anything super graphically intensive on Mac OS, you just boot up into integrated graphics, and iGPUs have gotten pretty good now, and so you can run Mac OS just on your Intel CPU, that your 13th gen with decent graphics, and then you boot into your PC and just use your real GPU.
So then, is your PC at home just primarily for gaming?
Yeah, because that's
Nice.
pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
And I've got a MacBook, so I'll do, some stuff from there. But like even quick emailing and most of the productivity tools I use are online. I'll just use Windows.
Right.
But yeah, it's mostly for gaming.
Thank you so much to MSI for making these CES 2024 talks possible. So MSI unleashed some killer tech at their booth. But one thing that totally stole the show, literally towering over everything, was the Mag Maestro 700L PZ. This beast of a dual-chamber chassis sports eATX and MSI's Project Zero motherboards. You know, the ones with the sleek cable action going on at the back for that clean look. But hold up, it gets even cooler. The case is a single piece of CNC'd aluminum, meaning zero panel gaps. Add in that one-piece glass panel wrapping around, and you've got yourself a stunner. Ready for some extreme water cooling too. 3 360mm radiators, kind of extreme. What? This unique bad boy, the Meg Maestro 700L PZ, is hitting stores in the next month or two with an MSRP of $379.99. Now, if that's a bit too rich for your blood, check out the Mag Pano. This one's got a more budget-friendly price tag, coming in ATX and micro ATX sizes. US market gets 4 pre-installed fans, or you can choose a fanless version for the international crew. It's available in black or white, and that wraparound glass panel gives you the ultimate wide-angle views. The case features solid cable management behind the motherboard with plenty of room, and these cool hinged cable covers to make stubborn side panels a thing of the past. With so many Project Zero builds on display, it's no surprise that MSI is also flaunting their line of clutter-free boards, featuring the B650 chipset for AMD's Ryzen 7000 series, and Z790 and B760 chipsets for Intel's 12th, 13th, and 14th gen CPUs. Back Connect design for effortless cable vibes, robust power delivery, and extended M.2 SSD heatsinks, they've got it all. Not to mention 20 gigabits per second USB, Wi-Fi 7, and 2.5 gigabit LAN for that extra sauce. Available now, so get them while they're hot. Hats off to MSI for making these CES 2024 interviews go down. Scope out their latest gear with the links in the video description. Thanks a million to Thermaltake for backing my CES 2024 chats. Now about those fans. Thermaltake's kicking it up a notch. Forget the old ones. These new Tough Fan EX and Suave Fan EX models are on another level. Why? They've got magnets that let you link them up, waving goodbye to that cable chaos. Coming in 120 and 140mm options, these fans only need one cable to power up to 3 fans at once, making PC building a breeze. Need to clean, mod, or swap the blades? Easy peasy. Plus, all the fans include some lube so your little propeller doesn't dry out. Thermaltake's not just stopping at fans, no. They're diving into the racing sim world with the GR500 cockpit. It's got it all. Adjustable fiberglass bucket seat, pedal mount plate, and a sturdy frame that's pre-drilled for all major brands like Thrustmaster, Logitech, and Fanatec. And hey, if you're into that triple monitor setup, they've got a stand for it. Picture this. 3 of Thermaltake's 32-inch curved monitors with all the bells and whistles. Quad HD resolution, 170Hz refresh rate, 1 millisecond response time, and sleek bezels for an immersive edge-to-edge view. Want the deets on all of Thermaltake's latest tech? Hit up the link in the description. Is that like the case for a lot of Mac users these days? Like they'll have a PC as well. Like everything's just kind of gotten a little incestuous with like ownership. It's like, like I got one of each, one for gaming, one for work, whatever.
I think it's becoming more common, if anything, because services have just moved away from being native.
Yeah.
So, back in the day, I had this huge suite of apps that like only worked on Windows.
Yeah.
And there are still exceptions to the rule. For example, and this sounds nuts to anyone who's not an Apple user, so I'm sorry. My calendar app is not available on the web or on Windows,
dude,
or on Android.
There's nothing like a good calendar app, though.
And it's the best
changer.
calendar app.
Yeah.
Like I've moved to Android a couple times for like a couple months, and I'm like, what do you use? Like Google Calendar
sucks, dude.
It's horrible. Yeah, so I use Fantastical, and it's a ripoff. And everyone would make fun of Apple users. It's $40 a year for a stupid calendar, but it's amazing.
It's your whole life in there, though.
Oh, yeah.
$40 is nothing.
Yeah. So I don't have that on my PC. So anytime I'm like, I need to look at my calendar, I have to pull out my phone, or I'll be like, okay, I got to go get my laptop.
Sure.
But most services have moved to the web.
Okay.
So email, most people do webmail. Like my productivity apps are all on the web. Like people use Notion and Basecamp, and that's all web-based. And so even on the Mac, they've moved away from having native apps to their just Electron wrappers or whatever. They're just web views. And so the need to have to be on a Mac is kind of decreasing. And if you are interested in gaming, Macs can't. I mean, they can theoretically, but they don't, because there's no software catalog, and Apple doesn't support Vulkan. And so like, you're kind of boned in that department.
Do they have like a store, like an app store with games on it?
Yeah. And they're releasing stuff. So like Resident Evil 4, the remaster from this year, just released on the Mac App Store, and it looks amazing, and it runs on Apple Silicon.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool port, because you're like, this is not an x86 version of the game. It's an ARM built version that uses Apple Silicon, and for what it's worth, you can get pretty good performance if you have decent hardware. So we have an M3 Max MacBook Pro, 14-inch laptop, super thin, fan doesn't get that loud. The TDP of the entire SoC is like 40 watts.
Damn.
And I can play that game at 1440p 60, no problem.
Wow.
So like, you can game on a Mac. It's not going to be
possible.
It's not going to be ultra, everything maxed out 4K,
sure.
But it's okay. The problem is that nobody wants to port their game to a platform where nobody games.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the only games that ever come are from weird companies that do weird stuff. Like Capcom does the weirdest stuff. I don't even know how they're still in business. But like companies that will spend like time and energy porting to the Mac, where like they're not going to sell any.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then when games come, they're typically many years old. So the Resident Evil 4, I say that as the exception to the rule, because that released this year on all platforms.
Yeah.
But like next year, Death Stranding's coming, which is old.
Wow.
And they're also going to release the whatever it's called, the new Assassin's Creed, not Mirage.
Oh, I don't even know.
Origins, Odyssey, I don't know.
There's so many now. I know. It's like the Fast and the Furious.
The new Assassin's Creed is coming out on the Mac, but it's already been out on other platforms for 3-4 months. So you can get it on Steam for probably $20, and it'll release on the Mac for $70.
Like, why do you? It seems like Apple doesn't really care about gaming that much. Like, why do you think that is? Why don't they care about gaming? They don't. They just, it's one area they've never seemed to want to be competitive in any way.
I think they care conceptually. They just don't care practically. So they're building out the tools for people to be able to port stuff. They have this game porting toolkit now, which is kind of like Proton, where you can actually, as an end user, it's not intended for end users, but as an end user, you can load up a Windows game, and through Wine and through a translation layer that it actually uses it actually uses a variant of Proton to be able to go DirectX to Vulkan, and then it goes Vulkan to Metal, which is the graphics API that Apple uses for their platforms.
Damn.
And so they call it they call it DVM3D, I think. DirectX anyway. It's a thing. They're trying to make inroads to say, hey, you can bring your games over. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
The problem is that they just don't have they've been so bad at gaming for so long that nobody's buying a Mac thinking, oh, I'm going to play games.
Sure.
And then because the install base is too small, no developers really want to spend their time bringing stuff over. Even if you can port it in one click, which you can't, but it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Even if you could port it without too much work,
no market share.
A couple thousand software sales, and so it's just not worth it. And then you have to support and make sure that you provide bug fixes to a game that nobody bought. And so what's the point of doing it? And so I think that Apple believes this is. I think for years Apple believed they were good at gaming because they own a large part of the gaming industry's revenue because they siphon 30% off of every single revenue. Every transaction that comes off the App Store.
Right.
And mobile gaming accounts for more than half of global gaming revenue.
Yeah, that's
and
insane.
Apple accounts for more than half of that. So Apple's like, we own a quarter of the entire gaming industry. Everything.
But it's all Candy Crush stuff.
Yeah, it's all Candy Crush, and Apple doesn't do any work. They're not doing it. They're just like, hey, it's the troll toll. It's like, pay 30%. You want to be on our store? Pay up. Or we'll find you.
A bit Delulu. They're a bit Delulu on that.
Yeah,
on that one.
Right. And so I think now they recognize that, hey, you know what? Maybe we do need to provide better tools and make more effort to bring stuff over. And so the iPhone this year, like, I've got it on my phone. I have Resident Evil 4 on my iPhone, which is cool. Nice. There's no Android phones that can do that. And does it run great? No, but it runs.
Yeah.
And it's a real AAA modern game on a phone.
Wow.
And I think that's how the Mac might get some gaming attention, is I think Apple is focused on the phone because they know mobile is where the money's at.
Right.
And if they make, nice AAA experiences for the iPhone, once you've done the work of porting it to here, it's as simple as recompiling the binary for macOS because they're the same platform now. They're the same chips.
Right.
And so if you're on here, you're on there. And so that's what I think their kind of focus is. And they obviously want 30% of a $60 game sale.
Yeah.
I think the problem is, and what they don't understand is, they need to put a bunch of money up front to bring real games to these platforms. If they care about it and they want AAA games to come, they're not just going to come for nothing.
Do you think they would give that money to the developers? Like, hey, we'll pay you to just make games for us.
Yeah,
like,
make games for us, or
here.
bring your games over.
For sure.
Or, hey, you've got a game coming out next year. Give us a 4-week timed exclusive.
Yeah.
Or if they bought one of the few remaining studios that exists,
there you go.
That's what Sony and Microsoft do to get people to buy their platform. So Apple's just like, we have all the tools. Why haven't you wanted to come over? And it's like, because there is no platform.
Yeah, right.
They need to do it themselves. And they're not going to get the PC guys to go, oh, well, I'm going to buy a Mac now.
Sure.
Because Valve has basically thrown up their hands and said, we've tried to work with Apple like every single year for Gabe even Newell has a video where he goes, every like 2 years, Apple will call us and they'll say, hey, we're really serious about gaming and we want to do stuff. And we go, oh, that's awesome. Because, we'd love to work with you. And they go, how can we make this better work? And we give them a bunch of ideas of what they're doing wrong on the Mac. He goes, and then we never hear from them. And 2 years later, there's a completely new team that goes, hey, we're serious about gaming on the Mac.
Broken
and
record.
He goes, so they're just saying the same thing, and it doesn't actually happen.
Damn.
And so most of the games that are getting ported are getting ported to the Mac App Store, which if you're a PC gamer, you're not going to move to a Mac because, like, if most of your Steam catalog doesn't work and you're buying, it's like the Epic Game Store. You can give away as many free games as you want, but most people are just going to buy where most of their catalog is.
Exactly.
And so I think if they're going to try to win on desktop, they either have to do a subscription-based, Microsoft Game Pass kind of type deal and bundle it in with the phone and with the laptop or work with Valve to bring stuff over properly.
Definitely.
Otherwise, it's never going to happen.
Damn. That sounds like it sounds so simple when you just say it like that, so concisely, but there's so many moving parts to it.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, thank God for PCs, I guess.
That's right. That's right. That's why I've got one on my desk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Oh man. I also want to talk to you about EVs, because you know a lot about EVs. You own EVs. You have owned. What do you currently own?
I drive a Rivian R1S.
Okay. That's like the truck kind of SUV looking one?
Yeah, it's the SUV. They're the same platform, the truck and the SUV. But, it's quite a bit different. It's like 18 inches shorter wheelbase wise.
Oh, wow.
So it drives a lot smaller.
Okay.
And you obviously don't have a truck bed, but you've got a third row and a bunch of storage and
And you came from a Tesla, right? You had a Tesla a while back.
Yep, I owned a Model 3 and a Model Y.
Okay. So are those the only 3 EVs that you've owned so far?
Well, Yes, asterisk. I own
for now.
I own a 11-year-old EV, but
oh wow.
Yeah, it's a piece of crap. It's a meme. Okay. It's a meme car.
All right, we don't count him then.
The Coda. Yeah, we don't count the Coda.
He can't hang out with the other guys.
That's right. I also own another EV that's from the 1970s that's like a golf cart basically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That sounds very fun. But okay, yeah. I was going to ask you because I've been thinking about getting an EV. Just not too seriously, but I wanted to get your take on it. Like, what are your thoughts now that you've kind of dabbled with some different options? Thoughts on Tesla versus Rivian versus, Polestar, all these guys? Because I know nothing about it.
So I do not like Elon Musk.
Okay. You're not alone in that.
Yeah. Not a fan. And I don't like a lot of what Tesla does. I don't really like their interiors. I think the criticisms about their fit and finish are valid.
Yeah.
You get in a $50,000 Model 3 and then you go get in any other $50,000 car and you're like, wow, this car's way nicer than the Tesla.
Yeah.
Fit and finish isn't great. Their paint sucks. They're not perfect cars at all.
It feels like an IKEA car to me. Like it's something like
it kind of does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is a car that
it's overly simplistic to the point where it's not just Spartan, it's almost cheap.
Right. Does it come with instructions like how to build it?
Yeah. Well, and if you look at the Teslas, if you look at the door trim and all the stuff, like they've got soft touch materials where other cars don't. They have hard plastic. So like I kind of feel bad for them because the fit and finish of the materials is good. It's just that it's so Spartan and simple that it feels cheap.
Yeah.
And then they also have, I've always thought they have trouble with, they do stupid frameless windows.
Oh, yeah.
And so you just get road noise on all of their cars have that. The Cybertruck has frameless windows. And it's like,
damn.
Why?
Wow.
But what I will say positively about Tesla is not only do they have the world's best charging network, and it's not close.
Yeah.
Their tech is way ahead of everyone else's.
Yeah.
Because when Tesla started proving that people wanted electric cars, all these traditional automakers were like, it's not a big deal. It's a battery, it's a motor, and we put it in it. But we make internal combustion engines where, we have micro explosions happening, thousands of times a second. This is not a problem to just put a battery and a motor on. Anyone can do that.
Right.
But what they found out was that, well, yeah, anybody can make an EV, but not everybody can make a good EV.
Sure.
And Tesla had so much time and energy and resources spent on software calibration of torque vectoring and motor efficiency, and they streamlined their manufacturing processes where they started using heat pumps instead of resistive heaters to warm the cabin and warm the battery, because you don't have a hot engine block to pull energy off of, right? So you've got to create that energy.
Sure.
And they did things where, like, when you wanted to go to a charger, you have to get the battery pack warm enough that it wants to accept a high rate of charge.
Yeah.
They started basically spooling the motors up super high to create excess waste heat that could be pushed in the battery pack to warm it up.
Wow.
Like, just a bunch of really clever stuff. There's another thing is, like, the battery pack and like basically every component in these vehicles is liquid cooled, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have a bunch of servos that open and close the pathways for what's supposed to be cooled and heated. And in every other EV and in Tesla's early days, you'd have like 15 different little inline servos located all over the place. And if one broke, you'd have to pull a bunch of, all the seats out. And Tesla was like, why don't we just put them all into one thing?
Yeah.
So this thing called the super manifold. It's just one part, and it handles all of the switching for all of the coolant in the whole vehicle. So they did stuff really well and continued to iterate. And when everyone else started making EVs, they were like, oh, crap.
It's not that simple.
This actually is kind of hard. Right. Our EVs only go 200 miles on a charge instead of 300.
Yeah.
They get half their range in the winter versus Teslas, which are only drop down 25, 30%.
Right.
We don't know how to properly route, the driver to a charging station because we don't know if they're going to make it because it's 120 miles, but who knows if there's elevation changes and what's the temperature and is there a headwind and all the stuff that lowers efficiency that Tesla accounts for in their software.
Wow, that's amazing.
And part of the problem was you have traditional automakers that are farming software development out historically to the cheapest, lowest bidder, right?
Yeah.
So like GM famously had most of their infotainment software done from like Russian companies that were like really low, like out of the backyard kind of type deals where they just wanted to pay $0. Wow. They had great engineers, but not software developers.
Right.
And they're trying to compete with Silicon Valley's darling.
Exactly.
That is getting all the people from Apple and Google and all this. And so how do you compete with that when the game is software?
Exactly.
And so that's where I still think that Tesla has the edge. You look at the Cybertruck, which I think is a douchey looking car, and I don't like the look of it and driving around in an Elon mobile. And I have heard based on owners that the build quality also still isn't that great.
Yeah.
But all the stuff they do, I mean, they've got the true steer-by-wire. First car to ever do it. So there's no mechanical linkage in between the steering wheel and the steering pinion. And rack.
Really?
And so they can remap now perfectly the steering ratio based on your speed. So in the Cybertruck, you can only turn the wheel 358 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Total. So there's no, you got to turn your big old truck in the parking lot. You turn that far and you're doing a U-turn at low speeds. But then when you're on the highway, you turn, this much and you veer slightly because it remaps based on the speed you're going.
That's pretty cool.
They've got rear wheel steering. They're the first vehicle to move away from a 12 volt system, which requires a lot of cable and it's expensive. They're doing everything 48 volt now.
Yeah.
They've just got a bunch of cool stuff on the Cybertruck that is going to make it down into the rest of their lineup. And it was kind of like everyone was barely starting to maybe catch up. And then they were just like, yo, and they leaped another 5 years ahead.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that the other EVs are bad. I drive a Rivian, and I love it. It's an amazing car. The fit and finish is fantastic. We've gone off-roading with it. We've been down to Moab where we'll do, Red Rocks and all these trail climbs, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
I've been, with friends that have lifted Jeeps, and we can do stuff easier than they can.
Sure.
Like it's a blast. And
how much do you miss the tech of the Tesla in your Rivian, if any?
The Rivians, I think maybe next to Tesla, Rivian's the next best.
Okay.
But yeah, it's worse. Even stupid stuff that's not a big deal, but you miss it. Like,
yeah, sure.
Sounds so silly, but when you're at a charging station, which I usually only do when I'm on a trip, but if you're at a charging station, in a Tesla, you can just pull up a YouTube video or Netflix and just watch Netflix for 15, 20 minutes while you're charging.
That's pretty sweet.
It's pretty nice. The Rivian doesn't have that.
Yeah.
They say they're going to add it, but it's just all of these little small quality of life convenience things that Tesla has because Tesla's had them for 11 years.
They've had a crazy head start over everyone else.
Yeah. And so even if you ignore all the tech stuff, which I think you can't ignore because as much as I love the Rivian, I pulled up my frunk liner tub to try to rewire a 12 volt electrical outlet. Not important. And you look inside of it and there's just crap everywhere.
Yeah.
There's just like all sorts of random screws and they're trying to put little coolant loops here and there's like little overfill valves and all this stuff that you're just like, why is all this garbage in here?
Right.
And then you open up a Tesla and it's like 3 things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gives them such the kind of advantage. But I think that we're in a good place where, with the exception of like maybe Toyota and Nissan's EVs, there's not really a bad electric car. They're all pretty good.
Okay, cool.
There are some that are better than others.
Sure.
And I think from a charging network standpoint, that's the biggest pain point.
Right.
The Tesla's opening up the supercharger to a bunch of cars starting this year.
Yeah.
So Rivian's supposed to be able to get access to Tesla's supercharger network within the next few months.
Right.
And that was, I think, one of their big competitive advantages where people would be like, oh, I want to get an electric car, but I do a lot of road trips. And it's like, well, Tesla's your only option. Because like there are no charging stations along that route. Yeah. And or there's one, but it's been broken for 4 years.
Right.
Where Teslas are like taken care of super well.
In any of your EVs, have you ever run out of range or like had a panic moment?
Panic moments, sure. Yeah. No, I've never officially run out, but even in my Rivian this last year.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think because in 2018, 5 years ago, when I was driving a Tesla, I never had this happen.
Right.
So this is 5 years later, driving a Rivian that can go further on a charge. I can go 300 miles. We were driving back from Moab, and there's this one crappy charger that you have to stop at to make it back to Salt Lake where I live.
Sure.
And Electrify America was like, y'all good. Everything's fine. The app reported that the stations were functioning. We got there and the entire station was off.
Oh, no.
And so we called and we're like, hey, nothing's turned on. And they're like, it says it's on for us. I'm like, well, I'm here. And it's not.
Yeah, right.
It's broken. And they didn't know they couldn't do anything.
Wow.
And so what we had to do was drive behind a semi-truck to try and draft a little bit at 55 miles an hour for like 150 miles. And we got to...
That guy's like, why are these guys tailing me so hard?
And we got to a charger just outside of outside of Salt Lake.
What?
With like, I think 3 miles of range left.
No
And
way.
the last like 10, 15 miles, I was like, we're not going to make it. I'm screwed. This is over. And in a Tesla... That never happens.
Wow.
Will not happen.
Yeah.
And so for people that are just trying to make the transition and they're like, I don't want to have to learn about stuff. I don't want to have to figure out how to do EVs. I just want a car that works.
Yeah.
I tell people just go buy a Model 3 or a Model Y.
For sure.
Because it's just the car for good and bad, it's the iPhone of the EV world.
That's a good way to put it.
But if you're an enthusiast and you can get into it and you can appreciate some of the fit and finish found elsewhere, I think there's a lot of other compelling options.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Dude, this has been a great conversation, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Of course.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Anytime.
Thanks, dude.
Enjoy the rest of your CES.
You too.